Welcome to a deep dive unlike any other, today we're looking into the top AI news, but
Mm.
what makes this exploration unique, really unique, is that everything, and I mean everything, the research, the analysis, even the voices you're hearing right now, is all powered by AI.
It's pretty wild when you think about
It
it.
is. It really is.
AI isn't just the topic we're diving into, it's actually, doing the diving itself.
Exactly. And we're calling this AI Daily Deep Dive, keeping you up to speed, quickly getting you up to speed on the AI developments that matter most.
Especially today. Today's a big one.
Today is a big one, Friday, March 28th, 2025.
Five big stories.
5 key stories have broken, so let's just jump right in.
Yeah, let's do it.
The first headline that really caught I guess I should say the AI's attention today is Elon Musk selling X
Oh, wow.
to his AI company, XAI.
To XAI?
Yeah, and this was announced just today, March 28th, 2025.
So fresh.
Very, very fresh news. And I think a lot of people remember, Musk bought Twitter
Back in 22.
back in 2022 for a cool $44 billion.
A lot of money.
A lot of money. The sale price to XAI is $45 billion.
Okay.
But, and here's where it gets a little interesting, there's $12 billion in debt included in that.
Oh, I see. So it's not quite a clean sale.
Not quite, no. The actual valuation of X in this deal comes down to $33 billion.
Interesting.
It is. It is.
So what I find really fascinating here is that, this is about way more than just a sale, right? This is Musk essentially bringing all his big tech ideas together.
Consolidating, yeah.
Consolidating, exactly. He talked about this, this transformative synergy that comes from combining like X's massive user base, all that data with XAI's, like, computing power and AI talent.
Yeah, it's like he's building this AI powerhouse.
Exactly. And he's even projecting, get this, an $80 billion valuation for the, the combined entities.
It's huge.
It really needs to be like, what's the future of social media going to look like?
Yeah, what's it going to look like 5-10 years down the line?
Exactly.
And while, they haven't announced any immediate changes to, how people use X, it's worth noting that XAI's chatbot Grok, which some people might have already seen, it's already part of the platform.
It's been around for a little bit.
It has. And this sale, it comes after, a bit of a rocky period for Musk at X. There were massive layoffs, something like 80% of the workforce gone.
That's 80%.
80%, and then he changed up the verification system. He brought back some, controversial accounts, which, led to some criticism. And a lot of advertisers, they just hit the pause button on their spending.
Yeah, I remember that. It was a whole thing.
It was. And if we, take a step back and look at the bigger picture, there was that fidelity evaluation back in 2023.
Oh, right. I'd almost forgotten about that.
Yeah, and it suggested that X's value had really taken a hit, like almost 80% below what Musk initially paid.
Really? Wow. That's a huge drop in value in such a short time.
It is. It really is. However, recently there have been, signs of a potential turnaround.
Okay.
Advertisers like Amazon and Apple, they reportedly started coming back, and even bondholders were selling debt at, a relatively high 97 cents on the dollar.
So things are looking up a bit.
Yeah, that seemed to be, but even with that, the $33 billion valuation under XAI, it's still lower than what, external investors might have offered.
So why go this road then?
Well, Musk, he said he's really focused on tackling that debt.
I see. Makes sense. Get rid of that debt.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to see this move within the context of, all of Musk's AI ambitions.
It all connected.
Yeah, it's all part of a bigger plan. XAI itself has been making headlines. There was that Bloomberg report just last month suggesting a potential $75 billion valuation in a funding round.
Wow, $75 billion.
$75 billion. And then let's not forget, his attempt to acquire OpenAI for $100 billion.
He really wants to be a major player in the AI game, huh?
He does. He really does. And this, this XXAI merger, it seems like just another piece of that puzzle.
It's all falling into place.
It is. So what could this all mean for, the average person's experience with social media?
Well, I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
We could see, like, way faster integration of some really sophisticated AI.
More powerful AI.
Exactly, like smarter content recommendations. Maybe AI that actually gets your interests,
Yeah, really personalized.
Exactly. A more personalized experience for everyone.
Yeah, and that brings up a whole other point, the role of AI in shaping what we see online, how we interact with each other. It's a big shift.
It is. It's almost like AI is becoming the new curator.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fascinating and a little bit scary at the same time, right?
It is. It is. Now, moving on to our second big story today, the AI boom. It's created a whole lot of new billionaires.
Billionaires. That's interesting.
It is 29 new billionaires, to be exact.
Wow, 29?
29 with a combined fortune of $71 billion.
That's a lot of money. A lot of money.
That's a lot of wealth being generated in a very, very short amount of time.
What's really remarkable to me, what really stands out, is how quickly this wealth has, materialized.
Yeah, the speed is incredible.
It's incredible. We're talking about companies like OpenAI, projected to be worth $300 billion.
300 billion?
Anthropic, over $60 billion. And then there are these newer companies like Safe Superintelligence. They're already valued at $32 billion.
It's mind-boggling.
It is. It really is. And what's even more striking, I guess, is how much of that wealth is concentrated among the founders.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, just 15 founders across 4 companies hold something like $38 billion.
Just 15 people.
Just 15 people. And then there's a potential for, 14 more individuals to become billionaires, adding another $33 billion to that from funding rounds that are still going on, like Thinking Machines Lab. They're aiming for a $9 billion valuation.
So we could see even more billionaires soon.
Exactly. And it's Rick Gordon. He's from Citizens Private Wealth in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, I know Rick.
You know Rick? Okay, well, he put out something really interesting. Tech booms, they're not new.
Right, we've seen them before.
But what's different this time is the sheer speed, the pace at which this wealth is being created.
It's unprecedented.
It's unprecedented, exactly.
And we saw this recently with an IPO, CoreWeave Inc.
CoreWeave Inc. They went public.
They did. They transitioned from cryptocurrency mining to AI infrastructure and went public at $23 billion.
Wow, that's impressive.
It is. And while that was, a bit below their initial $35 billion target.
Still not bad.
Not bad at all. It still resulted in some newly minted billionaires amongst the founders.
It's a good reminder that, even in this rapidly expanding sector, those huge valuations, they're not always guaranteed.
Yeah, things can change quickly.
Exactly. Market forces are still at play.
Absolutely. And the range of AI companies involved, it's pretty diverse.
Oh, yeah. What kind of companies are we talking about?
Well, we've got Anysphere, Anthropic with their Claude chatbot, CoreWeave, of course, Figure AI. They're focusing on AI-powered robots.
Robots, that's interesting.
Yeah, Perplexity with their AI search capabilities, Safe Superintelligence, Scale AI. They provide data labeling services, and Thinking Machines Lab.
So, everything from chatbots to robots.
Everything, a whole spectrum of applications.
That's fascinating. Figure AI focusing on AI-powered robots to deal with labor shortages, and their valuation is almost $40 billion.
That's almost $40 billion.
That really shows you how investors see AI as a solution, a practical solution to these real-world problems.
Yeah, they're betting big on AI.
They really are. And then you've got Anthropic. They're supposedly bringing in about $1 billion in revenue every year just from Claude.
Just from Claude. That's amazing.
It's amazing. Some of these AI companies, they're already making serious money.
Now, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about a major investment in some actual physical infrastructure.
Okay.
SoftBank, they're reportedly planning to invest $1 trillion.
Wait, $1 trillion?
$1 trillion in AI-powered robot factories here in the U.S.
Wow, $1 trillion. That's just an insane amount of money.
It is. And the main goal here is to address the ongoing labor shortages.
I see. Makes sense. Robots to fill those gaps.
Exactly. And that $1 trillion, that's even more than their previously announced plans, which included the $500 billion Stargate project.
So they're really doubling down on this.
Yeah, SoftBank, they've been, hinting at big U.S. investments for a while now. Back in December, they announced a $100 billion plan over 4 years, the goal being to create 100,000 AI-related jobs.
And that was back when Trump was president-elect, right?
Yeah, that announcement actually took place during a meeting with him.
Interesting.
It is. And the Stargate project itself involves some pretty big names. OpenAI, Oracle, MGX, they're all collaborating on this.
Wow. A real all-star team.
Yeah, and SoftBank is the key equity partner and the primary source of funding. Masayoshi Son, he's at the helm of the whole thing.
So they're putting a lot of trust in him.
They are, and the focus is on building these large-scale AI-centric data centers.
Data centers, that's a huge undertaking.
It is the first major facility. It's going to be a 500,000 square foot center in Abilene, Texas.
Texas, huh?
Texas, yeah. And SoftBank, they're not just interested in data centers, they're also investing heavily in robotics.
Robotics, interesting.
Yeah, they led a $500 million funding round just this past February for Skilled AI. It's a startup developing what's called general intelligence for robots.
General intelligence for robots. That sounds pretty advanced.
It is, and that was after, an earlier $300 million investment in Skilled AI.
Wow, so they're really pouring money into this.
They are, and Skilled AI, their vision is to create robots that can really do it all, robots that can alleviate labor shortages, perform tasks that are, dangerous or just really physically demanding.
So they're thinking long term, like these robots could really change how we work.
Yeah, and it all aligns perfectly with SoftBank's, trillion-dollar factory initiative.
It's all connected.
It is. So what does this mean for manufacturing and the labor market here in the U.S.?
Well, it could be big changes. We could see huge gains in efficiency. Things that could be scaled up much faster.
And this level of investment, $1 trillion.
It's unheard of.
It really shows you how much faith SoftBank has in the U.S. as this, this central hub for future tech advancements.
Yeah, it's a huge vote of confidence in American innovation.
Absolutely. Now let's turn our attention to the world of online content.
Okay.
Our next story looks at how AI-generated content could potentially, pose a challenge for those human history creators out there, especially on platforms like YouTube.
YouTube, yeah, that's a big one for history buffs.
It is. You've got channels like The History Guy, Oversimplify. They've got huge followings.
Yeah, they're really popular. And their videos, they're really well made, Yeah.
They are. But now we're seeing these AI-generated channels popping up. They're trying to, do the same thing.
And I bet the human creators, they're not too happy about that.
No, they're not. They're concerned.
Understandably so.
And the biggest concern really revolves around the accuracy of the information, and the potential biases that could be present in AI-generated content.
Right, because AI can, pump out videos really quickly.
Yeah, but it doesn't always have that deep research, that nuanced understanding that, a human historian brings to the table.
Exactly. It might look credible on the surface, but if you dig a little deeper, who knows what you'll find.
And Assistant Professor Wayne Hickman, he brought up this, this concern about the lack of depth, even if it looks good at first glance.
Yeah, it's all about those details, the nuance.
And it seems like a lot of this AI-generated content, it's prioritizing entertainment over, strict historical accuracy.
It's all about getting those clicks, huh?
Yeah, Laura Grimm, she's a PR professional and educator. She described these videos as potentially faceless videos, designed to get views, not necessarily to provide well-researched information.
So it's more about engagement than actual education.
Right, and that focus on engagement over facts, it's a problem. It could lead to misinformation spreading.
Yeah, because people might not realize they're not getting the full story.
Exactly. And Graham and her daughter, they also brought up this issue of authenticity and, potentially devaluing the skills involved in creating these really good historical videos.
Because it takes a lot of work, to research and write and edit those videos.
It does. And they were saying that, viewers might be pretty good at spotting errors in videos made by humans.
Right, because we kind of expect that, humans make mistakes.
Yeah, but they might not apply that same level of critical thinking to AI-generated content.
Because it seems more, objective, I guess.
Yeah, and that's a big issue when it comes to trust, how we perceive information.
Like, do we automatically trust something just because it was made by AI?
Right, and then there's the impact on the livelihoods of these, human creators.
Yeah, their careers are on the line.
They are. If AI can just, mimic their style, generate content endlessly, what does that mean for them?
That's a tough question, and it's not just about YouTube, right? This is happening across all sorts of creative fields.
Absolutely. Graham also warned about potential decline in, in viewer trust overall if the platform just becomes flooded with these potentially unreliable videos.
It's a slippery slope.
It is, it is. And this all leads to bigger discussions about intellectual property, ethics, the value of human expertise and artistry in a world where AI is becoming more and more prevalent.
It's a whole new set of challenges we have to face.
It is. And finally, our last big story today, it's about H&M and their plan to use AI clones of their human models.
AI clones, wow, that's a bold move.
It is. It sparked a lot of debate. They're planning to create something like 30 digital twins of their models throughout 2025.
So basically AI versions of real people.
Exactly. And they've said that, they're committed to doing this responsibly, working with stakeholders, and ensuring that these digital twins remain the intellectual property of the models themselves.
So the models will still have some control over their image.
Right, and they'll be compensated for their use.
That's good, but I imagine there are still some concerns.
There are, especially from unions and model advocates. Paul W. Fleming, he's from Equity, a UK trade union. He's emphasized the need for, really strong AI protections within contracts and legal frameworks.
To protect the models, basically.
Yeah, to protect their rights and to recognize the human artistry involved.
Because at the end of the day, it's still a person's likeness being used, even if it's a digital version.
Exactly. And Sarah Ziff, she's the founder of the Model Alliance. She's also voiced concerns about the potential disruption this could cause, not just for models, but for, makeup artists, photographers, stylists.
All those people who work behind the scenes.
Yeah, the whole ecosystem.
Ripple effect.
It is. And it's worth mentioning that that H&M, they're not the first to try this. Levi Strauss & Co., they experimented with similar ideas and faced some pushback.
Oh, really? I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, and Mango, they recently did a whole ad campaign that was entirely AI generated.
Wow, so this trend is really gaining momentum.
It is, and we've also seen, the rise of virtual influencers.
Oh, yeah, those are everywhere now.
They are, and the benefits for brands are clear, increased efficiency, lower costs, and new ways to engage with audiences.
So it's a win-win for them, potentially.
Potentially, yeah, but there are some big counter-arguments. People are concerned that companies will just prioritize profits over people.
That's a valid concern, especially with all the talk about AI replacing jobs.
Yeah, and that it could, make existing inequalities even worse and just push human creativity to the sidelines.
So it's a complex issue with no easy answers.
It is. It is. And while H&M's commitment to, collaboration and compensation, it's a good step, there's definitely a need for broader safeguards, clear guidelines on consent, fair compensation models, defining usage rights, all of that.
It sounds like we need some new rules for this new AI-powered world.
We do. We really do. And this whole situation with H&M, it's a microcosm of this larger conversation we're having about technology, ethics, the future of work.
It's a sign of things to come.
It is. It really is.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's AI Daily Deep Dive, March 28th, 2025.
We covered a lot today.
We did, from Elon Musk shaking things up with X and XAI to all those new AI billionaires.
SoftBank's massive investment plans, the impact on content creators, and of course, those AI model clones.
It's amazing how all these stories, they're all connected,
They are.
From the ambitions of these tech leaders to the economic effects of AI, how it's changing the job market, even how we consume information and, visual media. It's all part of this huge wave of AI influence.
It's everywhere.
It is. It really is.
So as you go about your day, think about this. In a world where AI is shaping pretty much every aspect of our lives, what's the value of human creativity, human labor, even our own identities?
That's a big question.
It is. It's a question that we're going to be grappling with for a long time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us for this look at today's AI news.
Thanks for tuning in.
Until next time.
See you next time.